But let's open the meeting. Welcome to the 5,522nd meeting of the Rotary Club of Chicago, the world's first service club. Thank you very much for joining. We're glad that you're here, and we hope to have a fun meeting today. We have some club items to celebrate our new members and to plan for the future. This week's Rotary Moment is going to be another history lesson and also a promotion for the Rotary One archives. So several years ago, the club commissioned an archivist to digitize our key documents. And so I thought, well, what were we doing back in the annals of Rotary on this day? So I found these minutes from Monday, June 19th, 1922, not quite 100 years ago. And I learned a few things, and these archives are really, really interesting. And we have minutes going way back and all kinds of key documents. But just to give you an example, these minutes from June 19th, 1922 shows that the club met at something called the Hotel Sherman. And let me just show you what the Hotel Sherman looked like. For those of you who were back in Chicago in 1978, this is what the Hotel Sherman looked like. And it opened in 1844. And it was on the site where the Thompson Center sits today. So this is the building that came down to build the Thompson Center in the late 70s and early 80s. And this is where the club...
Marshall, we can't see it. You're only showing us the minutes.
Oh.
I think you can only pick one program to show us at a time. So if you're switching programs, maybe.
Oh, because I'm seeing something entirely different. Hold on one second.
Marshall, I think you have to hit new share at the top.
Just says stop share. Hold on. Let me stop it and let me go back. Hold on one second. Can you see it now?
No.
Oh, hold on. Sorry about that. Hold on one second. Let's try it again. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Yes, there it is.
Okay, hopefully. Nope. Let's try again. There you go. So the Hotel Sherman is where the club met in the early teens and early 20s. And it was founded by someone named Sherman in 1844. And the building came down to build the Thompson Center. Back to the minutes, I wanted to just highlight a few key things about the minutes. Let me just navigate to the minutes again. A couple very interesting things. First of all the names are male. And if you go down, you'll see an obsession with both attendance and paying of dues. And a good share of the meeting was spent reviewing who had paid their dues and who was either being reinstated or excluded from attending the meetings either because they had not paid their dues or because they had not met their attendance requirements. And for all of us, where we're not as strict with attendance, it was fascinating to me just to see how obsessed really they were with attendance. And at the board meetings, they would go through member by member people who had requested reinstatement after being suspended, and members would be suspended for 3 months at a time because they'd failed to appear. Two other things that I wanted to highlight. The first is that they had an event known as Boys Week. And unfortunately, I'm not quite sure what Boys Week was, but a lot of time was spent on Boys Week, both financially and with scheduling. And later in the minutes, what was very interesting to me being a lawyer is that the board passed a resolution encouraging people to not shirk jury duty. That if you look here, it says that, oh, the other thing that's interesting is we do have this large club conference, which Eric and I have attended. And the large club conference actually started back in the 20s when the secretaries were invited to a meeting in Chicago. But later in this meeting, they resolved that too many members were shirking jury duty, and it was inconsistent with the motto of service above self. And so a resolution was passed to encourage the members not to shirk jury duty. So a lot has changed since 1922, including the fact that many of the people on this call are female. So a lot of good things, or a lot of things have changed for the better. But I encourage everyone to go to the Rotary One website and search for Rotary One Archives, and you'll be amazed at how much of our history is located there. So with that, I'm just going to do a short thought for the day. I'm just looking here to see.
Hey, Marshall, Liba has joined the meeting now. So if you wanted to still do the induction before my presentation, you're welcome to do that.
Is Saya on the meeting yet? Saya also said she could make it. Maybe we should just proceed with Liba and Chuck. But before we do that, let me just share a thought for the day. And I was amazed at Marga's comment about being told when she was in Russia that she smiled too much was almost prescient for the thought for the day. So the thought for today is the most useless day of all is that in which we have not laughed. So remember that as you go through the rest of your day, smile, laugh. Life is too short not to enjoy every day. So with that, I'm going to introduce the chair of our membership committee to celebrate, I guess, two of our new members today. And I just want to alert people that in the next 3 weeks, we are going to induct the new members that the board has approved so that by the time I end my tenure, we have admitted everyone into the membership of Rotary One who's been approved. But Laura, do you want to take the floor?
I'm sorry, were you talking to me?
Yes. It's your turn to induct our new members.
I apologize. My Doberman just decided that there was an intruder, probably a small child. So good morning, everybody.
As long as he doesn't go after our new members.
You're all safe. Laura Inns, membership chair here. So today we have two members to induct. Chuck Groby, he comes to us from a transfer, so he's no stranger to Rotary, and he's already shown a committed presence in the group. And also Liba, I'm not sure I'm going to pronounce your last name right, but Dylan Bernath. And Liba is new to Rotary, and she's also already been highly engaged in the club, participating in committees and attending events. So we're very excited to have you both. I am going to read to you the induction speech. I'm looking up at my bigger screen, and so we'll begin now. It is my great pleasure on behalf of the Board of Directors and members of the Rotary Club of Chicago to welcome each of you as a member of Rotary One. We welcome you not only for the fine fellowship that we shall share, but also for your talents, abilities, and enthusiasm that will help us carry out our many projects that make our community, our country, and the world a better place to live. Rotary is not a political organization, but all Rotarians are vitally concerned with everything pertaining to good citizenship and the election of good men and women to public office. Rotary is not a charitable organization, yet its activities exemplify the charity and the sacrifices that one should expect from people who believe that they have a responsibility to help others. Rotary is not a religious organization, but it is built on those eternal principles that have served as the moral compass for people throughout the ages. Rotary is an organization of business and professional people pledged to uphold the highest professional standards. Rotarians believe that worldwide fellowship and international peace can be achieved when business people unite under the banner of service. So if we were in person, we would request that you stand, but then you'd look ridiculous on screen, so please don't. Chuck and Liba, each of you has been chosen for membership in the Rotary Club of Chicago because your fellow Rotarians believe you to be a leader in your profession and because you manifest the intelligence and commitment of heart that fit you to interpret and impart that message of Rotary. You are a representative of your profession in this club. Any information of an educational value pertaining to that profession must naturally come to us from you. At the same time, you become an ambassador from us to your profession, and we rely on you to carry the principles and ideals of service, which we here inspire, to those who share your professional activity. The community will know and judge Rotary by your embodiment of it in character and service, and we accept you as a member because we know our principles and organization will be safe in your keeping. We also expect you to give us the inspiration that will help us become better Rotarians, and it is with this hope that I ask the president of the Rotary Club of Chicago to invest you with the distinguishing pin of a Rotarian. Now, we don't have the pins just now, but we are working on locating them somewhere at the Union League Club, and we are working on getting them to our new members as we do this. And I wish I had my own pins, but they were kept at my office where they've been locked up for many months. But you will receive a Rotary pin and a Rotary 1 pin. So the Rotary 1 pin is distinct from other clubs. It has the number 1 on it. So if I were with you in person, I would shake your hand and I would say welcome. And well, I will say welcome to the club.
And let me reiterate that welcome and our appreciation for you, taking the time and making the commitment to be Rotarians. When the pandemic passes and we can all be together in person, we will have a ceremonial pinning, but in the meantime, our administrative team will get you your pins. And you should know that the Rotary 1 pin is very special within Rotary, and we, as members of Rotary 1, typically will carry extra Rotary 1 pins to hand out. They are more in line with the original Rotary pin, which is different than what most Rotarians use. So you will become an ambassador for the club, and thank you very much for being here today and for making the commitment to Rotary.
Thank you, Marshall.
So let's all give them a warm round of applause, even if it's muted in its own way. Chuck and Liba, you also have the opportunity to just take a minute or two and introduce yourself to the club and tell us anything that you'd like people to know about you, like what brought you to Rotary. So Chuck, you want to start?
Thank you very much, Marshall. Yes, I would love to start. And hello, everybody. Thank you for this opportunity. Appreciate the induction, and looking forward to activating fully. I give you a quick introduction to me. I'm married to Lucy, and I have 2 sons, Tom and Ted. They're both well, let's see, Ted's graduated now. He's serving in the Navy, training to be a pilot in the Navy down in Corpus Christi, Texas. And my son Tom is a senior at Columbia, and he's studying film and directing. Both of my sons were active in Interact at the Richards High School, where I was involved with the Oak Lawn Rotary. I'm a past president of the Oak Lawn Rotary Club and have been active with that club for almost 25 years. It's a 50, well, maybe probably almost 60-year club. They just disbanded about a year ago. But they had a real great impact on the community in Oak Lawn. So I've been active in Rotary for many, many years. I live in the South Loop with my wife, Lucy, and just some background a little bit on education. I went to university. I went to Eastern Illinois University after high school and then attended University of Illinois Champaign-Urbana and then graduated from the John Marshall Law School here in Chicago. I'm an attorney, but I practice primarily real estate. I do real estate sales and marketing. We were talking earlier, Marshall and I, a little bit about Beverly and the Paul Harris home. My grandfather actually founded the real estate firm in 1926 in Beverly at 112th and Western Avenue and lived at 103rd and Bell, only a few blocks from our founder's home. But I've enjoyed Rotary. There's a lot to look forward to, Liba. A lot of fellowship, a lot of fun. One of the memories that sticks out in my mind is when my wife and I, when my boys were really young, we visited the Bahamas, and we were in Nassau, Bahama, where they had 5 Rotary clubs. And we were staying in a hotel where the current president of one of the clubs invited us to a luncheon, and I was going to be doing a makeup, which is something that we do often. So so we got ready to go to the lunch club, and we got a message from the president saying that actually they were having an evening dinner at the president's mansion, which was, I guess, the whoever, like the leader of the Bahamian Islands, was having a big party. So they had all the different countries represented from all the different islands. I guess there's like 700 islands. And there's a ton of people there with, they were wearing their home country garb, and they brought food from their own home country. So it was just an amazing international experience. And meanwhile, my kids are like 2 and 4 years old, running up and down the hallways of this massive mansion, President's Palace. And we were just having a ball. And it was like, this was my early introduction to Rotary. And I was just like, this is really, really cool. I mean, it just felt like you're welcome anywhere and everywhere in the world where there's existing clubs. So that was a great little fun story about my Rotary experience early on. But we've done a lot of active things and involved in a lot of different programs in Oak Lawn. We've done a few interesting projects. We did the Patriot Station project where we had the beams from the 9/11 memorial. We brought up beams in from the attack, and we had them basically repurposed into a memorial monument that was done by one of the famous sculptors, Robert Bloom, who erected them, and we had a big ceremony. And every year we go there and we basically have the village and all the Rotarians do a presentation and a little history and discussion about and prayerful action about peace and love in the world. So we've done those kind of projects. We also worked on the dictionary projects, which I was involved a little bit with your club here recently, and our club, I should say. And also we funded wells to be dug in Mexico, and as well as solar panels, where we assisted in putting solar panels into some tribal villages. So we've done a lot of fun things. But anyway, I just wanted to kind of give you that overview, and thank you for having me, and look forward to being active in the club.
Well, thank you, Chuck. With all that experience, we can tap you in a lot of different capacities. So expect to be fully deployed. And unfortunately, I don't know that we can rival an evening event in the Bahamian Presidential Palace, but we'll do our best. Liba, do you want to just take a minute and introduce yourself to the club?
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm so happy to be here. I guess I'm new to Rotary as a member, but I'm not new to Rotary as I just visited Rotary since I was young in elementary school and continued to do so till I went to school overseas. So I'm excited to be here, and I'm really grateful. Thank you, Marshall and Eric and Laura, for making me feel so at home, and especially Eric, because I love that you are excited about like things and growing and crazy ideas. And I hope that we do a lot more than talk, but like do. I think during Corona, it's been really hard. But even now, I'm already, you know, chatting with Laura and Eric and Marshall, and I feel like I already have friends in the group, and I can't wait to get back to meetings and seeing people, and hopefully not having to stand, you know, six feet apart all the time. I miss humans, so I'm excited to even be on a Zoom call. I think it's the most socialization I've had in a while. But thank you for having me.
Well, thank you very much, and you bring the kind of energy, you and Chuck bring the kind of energy that that I think all Rotary clubs need. So welcome, and it's great to have you. And now on to the president of Crazy Ideas, Eric Campbell. The purpose of this meeting he can explain to you, but we had a meeting in April and one earlier than that to talk about you know, our initiative that Eric has championed regarding the strategic plan, and we're now nearing the end of that process. And Eric asked for a time at this club assembly to present a near final draft of the plan and elicit people's input. So Eric, do you want to take the floor?
Sure. Thank you very much, Marshall. Appreciate that. And I agree. I appreciate all the enthusiasm from Chuck and Liba. I think we're going to find a lot of ways to get you guys engaged, and you'll see in the strategic plan that there's many ways to do that. Marshall, thanks for sharing earlier the minutes from that meeting in 1922. It gave me so many great ideas. I think we'll shift our strategic plan to be focus our meetings in the future entirely on dues and attendance. Those will be our 2 new goals, and we're done. But actually, we have some other things that we want to talk about here. So let me share my screen here. All right, share screen. Let's get over to our PowerPoint here. Okay, and let me minimize all you guys so I can see this on my screen. All right. Are you guys able to see my screen? Should say Rotary One Vision and Goals.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you. Very good. All right. So I'm going to start here with a little review of the goals. You know, for those who have been following along at home for the last about 9 months or so, we started a strategic planning process last fall because we felt that that was not something that we really sort of had in place previously, and it was time to understand what we as a club wanted to be in 5 years. And so we started with a fair amount of outreach, some surveys, we did interviews, we did some focus groups, we talked to our committees. I think we did a pretty good job of soliciting feedback. We had an ad hoc committee put together to actually assemble the plan and figure out how to do outreach. In February, we had an assembly, not much different than this, where we presented where we were at that time with the goals, and we got feedback. And so far, I think it's been very positive. And I really appreciate everybody who's provided their feedback, who's looked at this material, because this plan reflects what we heard from all of you, certainly to the best of our ability. Now, we have a lot of slides that I've gone through before that summarize the outreach, and I'm not going to go through all of those because Marshall will kill me since he wants to stay on time. So let's start here with the vision and goals that come from all of that outreach that we did. On the mission and vision side of things, this is kind of a high level elevator pitch as to who we are and what we do. You can look at some of the other examples we have in the Rotary universe, starting with our own mission statement as it sits on our website now. I don't know how that was created or when, but it's not bad. It talks about ethical leadership, professional success, friendship amongst our club members, and service in the community around the world. Rotary International also has a vision and a mission statement. I know a lot of people like that vision statement quite a bit. We see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe in our communities and in ourselves. Based on what I've heard here in our club, what we have come up with here is the statement that through our fellowship of diverse ethical individuals, we work together to have a transformative impact on our internal and external community. That vision statement can be articulated really into 5 main goals. And those goals are to plan and prioritize, to implement together, and to report on our success. Plan and prioritize tends to be a little bit more internal, administrative focused, but the idea is to, in fact, focus what we do. Implement together, that's really sort of the hands-on element of service. And report on our success really is about marketing and communication and telling our story. And these things in turn lead to these other 2 goals, the growth in membership and impacting the community. It's all about the impact at the end of the day. So for those who remember some of our past meetings, that's not new. But I do want to then go into a little bit more detail in these goals. And what we do is we take the goals and we break those down into objectives, which are a little bit more specific, and then we assign actionable strategies to those. Because a plan that's very high level is very nice, but it ends up sitting on a shelf somewhere. We want something that actually allows us to implement specific actions so that we can come back and say, here's what we're doing to actually achieve these goals. So let's start with plan and prioritize, in other words, focusing. And that we've broken down into sort of 3 key objectives, and that's focusing our investments of time and money to maximize our impact, to institutionalize the strategic planning process into our club and our processes and our board so that this is something that sticks and lasts. And then finally, standardizing our administrative processes and making them more transparent to make sure that people understand how to get engaged in the club or understand how somebody becomes a board member in that sort of thing. There are obviously a lot of strategies in here, and I'm not going to read through all of them as we go through each goal because we don't have nearly enough time. But we will share the actual report, the strategic plan. It's only about 12 pages, probably this afternoon or tomorrow, and then you can, at your leisure over the next few weeks, read through these different strategies. And we will have time at the end of this for questions too, by the way. So just let me get through all of this, and then we'll have a nice discussion. So the next one is implementing together. This is hands-on service. We heard this again and again and again in our outreach as to how important that was. So the 2 objectives here are first, the focusing of investments, again, of time and money. That's the same as we saw in our last goal. That very much relates to this goal as well. So in addition to that, we want to engage members to implement service projects. And that comes back to having our committees, our service committees, making sure to have plans and strategies in place, their own little plans that roll up into our plan, the bigger plan, that basically screen service projects based on their ability to engage members and the ability for members to participate. We also look at expanding the types of service opportunities that exist within the club to help out the club. Reporting on our success. This is the other thing that we've heard about again and again and again, and is certainly a pet peeve of mine as well. We don't really do a good job of telling people what we do, all the amazing things that we're doing. It's hard to find information about that, and yet there's so many easy ways to do that, to get the message out. And honestly, it's both externally and internally, and that's why our 2 objectives here reflect that. A big piece of this, of implementing this part of the plan, is creating a new committee focused on PR, communications, and marketing. And if anybody has not expressed interest yet is interested in being part of this, please do let me know. And so there's a lot of stuff in here focused on more deliberate social media, updating and reconstructing our website, and making sure in particular that we highlight the service projects that we do. Just keep pounding that in and pounding that in, because I don't know about you guys, but I struggle to find anywhere a comprehensive list of all of the amazing projects that we're engaged with at any given time. And I'm about to be president in 2 weeks, and I couldn't usually tell you what are all the projects that we're doing. So we need to fix that. Externally, the external advertisement and marketing in many ways reflects the internal one as well, but there's a few other ways that we can market ourselves externally too. Growing membership. Growing membership in some ways is sort of derives from how well we're doing all of the other goals, right? Because if we're really strong in how we're doing service projects and reporting on that success and impacting the community, for example, then our membership should grow somewhat organically. That being said, we have 4 objectives in here for growing membership. And that's, first of all, making sure that we're increasing the value and experience for our members. Actually then increasing new members, increasing member retentions. That's a very important one because sometimes we can bring in a lot of members, but if members we've already brought in keep dropping off, we don't actually grow our club. And then that tells us too that we're not doing what we need to do to get people engaged, which ties back into some of the other goals. And then, of course, diversity, inclusion in everything that we do here in the club, and particularly with a membership focus. And a lot of the items in here relate to our programming, relate to increasing our fellowship time, leveraging technology, things of that nature, but also looking at different ways to reach out to different groups, to be more targeted in reaching out to other organizations, other groups, specific demographics and so forth, residents downtown, in ways that maybe we haven't done before. And here's also where one of the new roles, club service opportunities of being on this sort of welcoming committee is very important. One of the things that we heard a lot about was sometimes people, they're new to the club, they may not feel welcome. It's a big room with a lot of people. It's a little formal. Simply having somebody there to say, welcome, come on and tell me a little bit about yourself. Somebody who can help sort of guide a new member, a prospective member, to say, here, why don't you talk to Wes over here, or talk to Betsy, or something, something like that. Or have you met the folks at this table? Why don't you come over here? Just somebody to sort of to help with that, I think will go a very long way, and it's a fairly easy thing to do. Member retention. The great thing about engaging somebody to do something like be on the welcoming committee or some other roles is that you're not only helping the club broadly by welcoming these other people, but now that individual has a role. You've engaged them. They have a reason to show up and feel like they're part of the club. And that will in turn help increase member retention. On the diversity and inclusion side, that's something that really spans a lot of the other things that we're obviously doing. But in terms of some specific targeted strategies here, this is where I think it's important to be deliberate about identifying other groups, and these may be organizations that you all are part of already, or other groups such as international chambers of commerce. These could be Greek societies, which are very common in the African American community, post-college and service clubs. Like, these are organizations that I want to make sure that we try to send members to from time to time and ask, hey, can I stand up and talk a little bit about Rotary? And vice versa, can we reach out to those groups and invite them into our organizations and find ways to collaborate and ultimately get more engaged with our club. So at the end of the day, it's all about the impact, right? My mantra for the year is going to be move the needle, and that's move it in Chicago and move it internationally as well. And we do that by simply measuring the impact of the projects we implement, but also implementing visible projects that people see, projects that we want to put our name on. I think that's very important. There's also, though, something that can be forgotten at times, which is that we need to also impact our own community. And by our own community, I mean the Rotary community, Rotary Club of Chicago, right? We're all professionals. We all want to be able to grow our own businesses. We all want to be financially and mentally, emotionally stable, right? We need to sort of help each other, and that comes through fellowship, that comes through promoting our personal accomplishments, that comes through promoting our businesses within the club, and having things like a professional mentoring program that I know, Liba, you're already stepping up to help with. Marshall, I know you've been working on that as well, and that's something that's very important to our young members and our Rotaract members. So that's a lot of talk, but how do we do? So here we get to implementation, and we have an implementation framework that consists of having performance measures, setting targets on those measures, having champions, roles, individuals that are assigned responsibility for implementing each of those strategies, and then actually tracking and reporting on the plan. Very quickly, at a very high level, we can identify some performance measures that map back to each of the goals, relating to how we're spending our money, tracking on our website and social media, our total membership, things of that nature that are sort of high-level goals. But we also want to make sure that each of our strategies has somebody that's accountable for that strategy and reports back to the president on a quarterly basis to say, yes, we're doing it, no, we're not, we're about to start on it. And that just sort of makes sure that the stuff gets done and doesn't drop off the radar screen. And so I envision something that looks like this table here, where we kind of go through every quarter at our board meetings and make sure to assign each of the strategies. How is it going? Is it achieved? Is it in progress? In addition to those high-level metrics like membership, for example, and showing how we're doing on that. And after we've done that once a quarter at our board meetings, I would like to present that back to all of you, back to the membership at meetings similar to this, which we could have once a quarter. And so my final slide is just talking about next steps here. The board has seen the draft plan and provided some feedback. Here we are on June 16th. I'm presenting to all of you. We'll get you the draft plan here in the next day or so, and feel free to review it. If you have any comments, you can send them back to me, or you can send them to Cam. But I'd like those comments by the end of the month, if possible, so that I can incorporate them into the plan, and the new board will vote on them on the plan on July 7th. In particular, if you can focus, since we've talked a lot about the goals in the past, I think sort of the strategies and the implementation plan is where the rubber meets the road. So I'd love to hear your input in those areas. And Marshall, that is the end of my presentation there. Shall we open it up for questions and comments?
Yeah. Before we open it up for questions and comments in general, I would like to just highlight a few aspects of the strategic plan, but most importantly, I'd like to thank Eric for all of the time he's invested in this project. He championed this from the beginning and expressed a desire to do this. He kept us on task, and I think we're in a position to adopt a plan that's going to be very valuable. There were a couple things that I wanted to comment on before we open it up, and the first is that it's really important to focus on the internal and external aspect of this plan. As many of you know, we're kicking off something called the Rotary Network in collaboration with RI, and that really hopefully will raise awareness of our need to help our fellow Rotarians, not only engage in the service projects, which are so near and dear to our heart, but also to recognize that fellowship starts at home and that we really need to work with our fellow members to get to know each other and to help them in difficult times and to celebrate in the good times. And I think this plan really does a nice job both in the mission statement as well as the implementation to capture that concept. Eric touched upon these strategic plans that each of the service committees is formulating. Each of the committees has already made tremendous progress in doing that. Eric has led that effort, and each is either has one in place or is on the verge of adopting one. And these really do focus the activities of the community, which is very, very important. Working with other organizations, I think, is also very important. We've opened up lines of communication with Toastmasters, which has a strategic partnership with Rotary International. And we've also had a lot of contact with organizations like the International Trade Club of Chicago. So I think it's important that carry on. The last comment I'm going to make is really a request and a plea of sorts. When you see the plan, each of the different action items has a champion, and certainly board members and leadership will take on some of those tasks. But for the strategic plan to be successful, it's critical that members at all levels of the organization become champions for the various tasks that are before us. And so when you look at this plan, please read it with an eye towards what are the areas where you can have the greatest impact. And Leva's already volunteered in the chat box to work on PR. And I think it's very important that we all take some measure of responsibility for making the strategic plan a success. And with that, I throw it open to any comments, questions that people have. I encourage you to give feedback to Eric so that we can make this plan the best it can be before it is adopted in the first week of July. But whoever has comments, please unmute yourself and let us know what you're thinking. Any takers? Marilyn, you look like you'd like to say something.
I'm good. It was awesome. Thank you, Eric, for all you've done.
Thanks, Marilyn. Appreciate that.
Of course.
Marshall, this is Sully. When you're looking at membership, are you looking at particular things like in terms of Interact or Rotary? Are there certain emphasis areas that numbers or direction you're aiming for?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. In like I said in the presentation, there's sort of a couple of different angles to membership, and in some ways more important in some ways than growing new members is making sure we're doing what we need to do to retain our current members, right? By adding value, because it's easy to focus on, how many people can we grab off the street who want to sign up for Rotary today, but if you get 10 of those people and a year later only one of them is still in Rotary, then it's not necessarily it's not what you want to be doing. But in terms of how we would go about adding new members and the kinds of organizations that we might interact with, I think again with the diversity part of this being extremely important, I think we want to get creative in terms of the types of groups we want to look out to and try to connect with, perhaps groups that we hadn't in the past. One type of group that I thought would be a really good, the type of group that would be a really good market, I think, for Rotary and a good fit would be international chambers of commerce. And I say that because especially in Asia, so let's imagine an Indian American Chamber of Commerce or Korean American Chamber of Commerce or something like that. The reputation of Rotary, particularly particularly in Asia, is huge, right? And it's an extreme honor to be part of Rotary, and it's extremely well known, and it's also known on the business side of things. But those are areas that we haven't really, tapped into. But could Rotary try to have joint events, or send some folks to some of their events, or invite them to some of our events? I think if we were able to do that and kind of bring them in and show them that we want them to be part of our organization, I think those would be great ways to get new groups engaged. You were talking about Rotaract and Interact. We do have an Interact club that Don Gardner's daughter started, and that we want to keep going, and that's on the north side of Chicago. In terms of Rotaract, yes, we certainly want to keep growing our younger members. I just had a meeting yesterday, actually, with the incoming president of Rotaract to talk about ways that we can work together to better coordinate our clubs, and also for our members to add value to them. And if we do that, then they will grow. And if they grow, then that's ultimately good for us as well. But thanks for the comments, Gene.
Thank you.
Marga?
At the same time, we're all here to enjoy each other. So whatever talents you have, particular things you enjoy doing, good ideas that you have to share, bring them in, because the fact that some of us are board members and some are not, that doesn't mean that tomorrow you can also become a board member. So we're all, this is our club, so we're all free to contribute and bring suggestions about activities that we can do, activities and service projects we can do together, service activities we can do together. So, what I would like is that everybody feels free, because everybody has a valid voice that we want to hear. And then if there are things that you're particularly good at, and you would like to share them with us, let us know, because essentially, we want to have fun while we're doing good work. So, networking is wonderful, but at the same time, we want to really enjoy meeting each other. So my message to the membership is that everybody has something really important to contribute, and do not be afraid to do it.
I think I will say something. This is Marilyn. On top of Eric, that was awesome. But the host committee, I think that's fantastic, because I correlate that. And I know not everyone is a churchgoer per se, but for at least the big churches, I know that there are people that are greeting you, welcoming you, and sometimes they even sit next to you, right? Because they want to make sure that you feel like you're part of the family. So I think that's really important. I would even encourage for us not to just welcome them as they walk in, but maybe even sit down with them for a couple times, 2 or 3 times. As you guys know, I work for the Boy Scouts of America. And when I started out my career, when we would start a new unit of kids with volunteers, we would have to go and be with them every week for 3 months to make sure that they knew that they were part of us and that they could function. It's no different than that, right? So I would encourage us to take it a step further and just saying, hey, I commit to sitting down next to this person for the next 3 meetings. Yes, it'll probably require an exchange of phone numbers, so we can check to make sure that they are going to be coming and that we're both there present at the same time, so we can interact. And I can be like, hi, have you met Laura? Or have you met Sarah, right? Or have you met Eric? Or Marshall, whoever, right? I'm just looking at my first, I know there's 2 pages of screens. That's what I see right now. But I think it would be really good because if we could get them to say, hey, this group, they want me here. And then we can start looking and seeing what the talents are and how can they participate and get involved in committees, in events and projects. So I think that's a fantastic idea, and it'll help retain for sure.
And I just want to emphasize that really is what sets Rotary apart from a lot of the organizations that we compete with for members. A lot of the organizations that meet quarterly or semi-annually or monthly, it's not really, the purpose is to network and all of that, but it is not really to get to know the members. And one thing that has always attracted me to Rotary is having the opportunity to meet with everyone every week allows you to get to know people in a much different way. And it's really important. It really is more of an outlook or an attitude as to how you approach each meeting. It's not really to sit down and just kind of be entertained by a speaker, but it's really to get to know your fellow Rotarians. And if I think we all go into each meeting with that attitude, you're just more friendly, more welcoming, and more likely to engage, meaningfully engage members. Who's next?
Well, what I wanted to say that if the day you happen to start traveling again for business, always try to go to a Rotary meeting wherever you may be, no matter where in the world. There's an app there that is a club locator that can tell you where you can go any day of the year and any time. So, you know, ask Chuck with his great experience. I mean, it's wonderful, and you're going to find friends everywhere you go. And now with Zoom, when things pop up on invitations, pop up on Facebook pages, just, you know, if you have time to do that, just click and get in and introduce yourself. It's that easy.
Thank you, Marta. That's a really good point. The number of times that I've been traveling for business or pleasure around the world and decided to pull up the Rotary Club Finder app and discovered that there was a meeting going on in the very same hotel that I was staying. I mean, how easy is that? Any other comments or concerns?
I have a comment.
Sure.
My husband and I, since we're working remotely, we decided to work remotely in our travel trailer. And so we decided to take a road trip to California. And we just got back Sunday, and we've been working the whole time. But anyway, we've been trying to do like hikes and stuff. And when we were in Ventura, we did a hike. And ironically, at the top of the hike, I took a picture of it, but it was donated by Rotary. It's called the Rotary Plaza, and it has our saying and everything. And I just thought that was really cute. In the middle of nowhere, this beautiful hike that we were on was donated by Rotary. I just thought that was really cool.
That's awesome. Thanks, Leva.
Hey, hi Eric. Hi everybody.
Hi Nita.
I'm sorry I wasn't able to join until later, so I think I missed all of your presentation. But I did hear a couple of the comments, and I also agree, you know, these are all good ways. And I also did the same thing what you just did, Eric, just going wherever I am in the world, go and see if there's a Rotary Club, and it's a really good way to feel more part of the community and connected. And let me also add that whenever I mention Rotary One, then I almost get the red carpet treatment, you know, to many of these. So in India, in North India, and in South India, I'm sure you all know different cultures are different the way they do things. And then I even, oh, Rotary One, oh yeah, and then would like to come and say something and come to the front. And the club in, oh, I should show you all this sometime. They gave me something, some like plaque or something, you know, I have to bring that. And then that was nice. And then to speak, and they really honor visitors. And then in Germany too, 2 times I went to an all male club, not knowing, okay, it was an all male club usually. And because I'm a Rotarian visiting from somewhere else, and then Rotary One, and then they were so welcoming. So it was really nice. I feel more connected. Other thing that Marga was mentioning about what is our talents, and just please include those things. So I'm thinking also, as I mentioned a couple times before, too, of these recent sentiments and being mindful of how included, you know, people feel when they come to our club. It's more of like this feeling, and Marilyn mentioned too about this engaging, you know, with the person when they're sitting at the table. It goes a long way. And I think now we're hearing more about the unconscious bias and the psychology, and I can't reiterate that even more, how I feel like there's more, I feel like, me and everybody we can do in that regard, so that everybody feels welcome. We never know when somebody's not feeling included, you know, and they won't tell us, so we can just feel that warmth of the connection. So that's an area that I want to focus on more. I think that's probably why I mentioned when we did the planning, earlier in the year, when we were talking about the committees, I took an interest in the PR one, and also the I mentioned about diversity and inclusion, you know, too. So yeah, so.
So Nita, thank you very much. We really do need to move on. So I encourage everyone to get their comments back to Eric regarding the plan. One thing he identified I want to start to correct right now. Shelby's produced some slides of all of the projects that we have going on for our committees. So if you could just share that with the group. These are all the projects this year that the Community Services Committee has worked on. So we are having an impact, but Eric's absolutely right. We need to publicize this both internally and externally to emphasize the impact that we have. On the International Services Committee side, we have a similar list. These are broken down by projects that have been funded, projects that are in process, and projects that we're supporting that are funded by other clubs. And the strategic plans that Eric worked with the committees to prepare really are guiding this process. And next year, I think, will be even more robust in terms of the impact that we are having. The other thing that I'd like to share is in celebrating our club at the club assembly is, we have this section called Joys and Concerns, and we have one joy and one concern that are reflected in the gyrator, but that I wanted to highlight. Our member, Gunnar Benito, who happens to be Sarah Buck's husband, was recently recognized.
Okay, here's contact information for Sarah Buck.
Siri wants to get involved here. Gunnar was recognized in COVID stories from anesthesiologists for his leadership and creativity. And that really was an instance in which he had to intubate a COVID patient on an emergency basis. And we just want to call out that we have members out there in this crisis who are really stepping up and doing the right thing. I also wanted to highlight that one of our oldest longest serving members, Jim Hohensteiner, lost his wife of many years. So for those of you who know Jim, I wanted to make sure that you were aware of that. Usually we have introductions, but before I move on to that, are there any joys and concerns that anyone would like to share? Just unmute yourself and share. If not, this meeting is unique among the meetings that I have presided over, in that I do not think we have any international or visiting domestic Rotarians to this meeting, which in some ways is appropriate given that we've spent the whole time talking about ourselves. A few quick announcements. Eric will be installed as president of the club on June 30, which means I have only 2 more meetings, one entire meeting over which I will preside, but Eric will be installed on June 30. So I encourage everyone who is a member of the club should participate, and please get the word out. I think I mentioned last week that one of the regrets I have is that Eric will not be able to be installed with us all in person. It's a very special event, and it was very special to me, and we need to make this as special for Eric as we can. A week before that, on June 24th, or 6 days before that, on June 24th, District Governor Chuck Corrigan, who's been a good friend of our club over the years, will be installed as District Governor. That will also be virtual, so I encourage you to attend that as well. Eric, do you want to give one last plug for the annual campaign before it comes to a close at the end of the month?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I think that you've heard a lot of the spiel before, but all of those fantastic projects that you just saw on the 2 slides for community service and international service, those get funded based on the contributions that you all give to the Rotary Foundation and the Rotary One Foundation. If you have not become a Paul Harris Fellow in the past, there are special ways where you can contribute about $333 to the Rotary Foundation and contribute something to Rotary One, and you can get your first fancy Paul Harris pin. I know that there are several folks that are close to that, close to getting their first pin. We also have something called a Chess Perry Fellowship, which is for Rotary One. Every 1,000 contributed to the Rotary One Foundation, and I know that there's a few folks who I think are kind of almost there. So if you can kind of take a look at that or reach out to Karen or Ed and sort of see where you're at in your contributions. That money is very helpful, particularly with all the challenges going on now and in the coming years. This is where we're gonna, as I said, where we're gonna move the needle, and we need those resources to do that. Thank you.
And Marga, you mentioned at the beginning about the International Assembly. Did you want to just put in a plug for signing up for the International Assembly? You're muted,
Well,
Marga.
as you know, can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes, we can hear you.
As you know, every year we have an international convention. This year was supposed to be in Honolulu. So instead of having a Rotary International Convention in Honolulu, we are going to have a virtual convention that I came to call the Zoom Lulu. So, because it's the best we can do. So if you go to riconvention.org, you need to register to participate in the sessions. There are different days starting from the 22nd through the 26th of June. It is not an all-day thing. It's a couple of hours or 1 hour here and there. And then you can listen to the different speakers. And also there's going to be in July breakout sessions in what we call the House of Friendship. For those of you who have not been in an international convention, you know, we are able to gather something between 20 and 40,000 people in our conventions, and the House of Friendship is like a huge exhibition with hundreds of booths where Rotarians from all over the world show their projects. And there's a lot of, you also have to register for those when they begin to be coming online, so you can click in that you want to attend each one of those. It's going to be a virtual booth that you will be participating or attending. So go register so you can be a part of it. And the goal is that RI wants to break the record, 50,000 people attending the virtual convention. So again, it's riconvention.org, and enjoy.
Hey, Marga, how many days and then how much is it?
Nothing, it's free. And you can tell your friends about it too. So
how many days is it?
It is.
I just looked it up. I have two screens. I just looked it up and it had quite a few sessions.
So
how many days?
It is 4 days, but then they're like, it's an hour here, an hour there. So you're not going to be sitting for 4 days in front of your screen. So see what you're interested in. And yeah, okay, Shelby's saying June 20th through the 26th. So yeah, go and you know, sign up because it's going to be fun.
Well, that's this weekend. Okay.
Yeah. It starts this weekend. So
yeah. And it really provides flexibility. You know, having gone to several international conventions, they really are special events. It's unfortunate that Honolulu was canceled, but this provides you an opportunity to sample them and to really pick the things that are of interest to you and to participate in a very low cost way. And so I'd encourage you to participate, if only to see what a convention is like, what kinds of projects are highlighted, how the booths work, and the breakout sessions. I do believe, Marga, that they have several kind of plenary sessions where they're going to have presentations by, you know, high visibility people, very well-known people who are going to talk about, you know, themes important to Rotary. And those programs are also extraordinary. I mean, they've brought in Bill Gates and just Justin Trudeau spoke. I mean, there have been very meaningful programs, and I encourage you to participate. given the fact that it's going to be virtual, will give you an opportunity you wouldn't have otherwise had. So
Yes, so
really,
go there, look at the program. You're going to see Rotary leaders and also, well, the sessions for what we call the House of Friendship. There are many, many, many of those. So the sessions are fairly short. So everybody can, you know, have a drink or a coffee and just take a peek. And also tell your friends if you see there's a topic that your friends may be interested in.
Yeah, I see Neetha's commented about the time. So they're, I think, trying to schedule it so that you can participate in different programs at different times. I know I'm a member of the International Travel Hosting Fellowship, and they have 2 meetings where they're going to conduct business. So I think efforts have been made to schedule them at times when people across the world are going to be able to participate. So you do have to pay attention to the times.
Marga, is that, excuse, I'm sorry, Marshall.
Oh, go for it. Yeah, go for it.
Can you send that link again to,
Yes, yes.
or
Also,
publish that in the,
you know,
yeah.
if you're on Facebook, friend me on Facebook, because I have these ads, and then I forward them to Ed and Karen so they can put them on our Facebook, on our club Facebook page or Instagram page. So
and they're in the chat box too, Pancho.
Yeah. So
everyone, several people have shared them in the chat box. So
can you put that in the bulletin perhaps? Thank you.
Yeah, we can definitely, Karen, in the next membership communication, can you make sure all those links are listed? I think they actually might be listed in the gyrator today. Hold on one second.
The link to the convention homepage is in the gyrator. So that will take you to where you can register for all of the individual sessions.
Yeah. Yeah, if you go back to the gyrator, so that'll work as well. So final announcement, Eric and I are conducting a series of tours of the Paul Harris home. The next one is on Thursday at 2 o'clock. We're presenting to the Roseville, California Club. And then Marga and Eric and I are attempting to schedule a broader meeting with a group of presidents from, Rotary presidents from India to tour the home. If you haven't had the opportunity to come, it gives you an opportunity virtually to see what the home is all about and where the renovation stands. We're very near to getting an occupancy permit, and so I encourage you to participate. Next week's program is a speaker, Harold Green, who's an author and New Age poet for Flowers for the Living Foundation. He is someone who was scheduled to speak before the pandemic hit, and he was gracious enough to agree to speak virtually next Tuesday for my last regular program. So I encourage you all to attend. This week, what I'd ask, as far as the 4-way test goes, is if Liba and Chuck could unmute themselves, given that you are our newest members. We would appreciate it if everyone else would mute themselves and have Liba and Chuck lead us in the 4-way test.
Okay. Liba, you want to start us?
Sure. The 4-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do. First, is it
the truth?
Second, is it fair to all concerned?
Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships?
Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you very much. Welcome to the club, and thank you everyone for coming. We'll see you next week, if not before. Take care.